Hey, good morning, family. This is Ricky, and welcome to Hope for Today. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's middle of the week. Can I get a humpback witness? Let's get over the hump today on our way to our weekend. How y'all doing out there? We're doing good over here in Southern California. God's been good to us, and it's such a blessing to be a blessing. Thank you so much for being a part of the Hope for Today family. I'm in Jonah chapter 1, verse 3. That says, but Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord, the very word of the Lord. And yes, I do enjoy saying the word Tarshish. Tarshish is a very interesting word. Anyways, we've been talking about Jonah and how God loves us unconditionally and how God shows it to Jonah that even though God knew Jonah would run away from him, God still chased after Jonah and chose him to be a deliverer of the gospel to a very wicked people. And I think the point I want to encourage you guys in today is to remind you that God loves you unconditionally. And because he made you and because he loves you unconditionally, and hear me and don't turn me off, God gets to command you to do hard things. That's what I wanted y'all to hear. Now, Ricky, how is this encouraging? I know, but according to the book and according to what I see here and according to how I see Jonah's story end here, it's a reminder that God gets to tell you and I to do hard things. What's the hard thing that God's dealing with you about? Some of you are dealing with the hard thing of, goodness gracious, I got to deal with a boss that is really getting to me. I've got to go and, I've got to show my wife love, even though she hadn't been showing me love. I got to go just deal benevolently with my husband, even though he hasn't been showing me the same. I got to go show grace to a kid because the tough love ain't working. I've got to go reconcile with a family member. I'm upset with a friend. This person owes me money and I've got to go and try to reunite with them. Or I've got to go step out on faith, not knowing where my resources are coming from. Or I've got to go and stick it through with this church that I've committed to. All of us are always being commanded by God to do hard things. And here's the crazy thing about God telling us to do a hard thing. Sometimes we don't know in the hard thing that it's going to be a good thing in the end. Come on, somebody, and say, man, that one of the hardest things about hard things is that God doesn't give us the conclusion of the story while we're still in chapter 3. But God loves us unconditionally. And so God would command us to do nothing that wouldn't ultimately mean for our eventual good. Jonah's commanded here to go preach to Nineveh, which would have felt to you and me like God calling you and saying, hey, go to the Middle East and go preach Jesus to ISIS. The Ninevites were just that hated. They killed people. They slaughtered people. They hated people. The Ninevites, the Assyrians, is where this is, modern day Iraq. These were the guys who invented crucifixion. So these guys were terrible, terrible people, enemies of Jonah, enemies of Israel. But God loves Jonah unconditionally, and God gets to tell Jonah to do hard things. And I just want to encourage you today, for whatever that hard thing is that God's saying, trust me. I can't give you a glimpse to the end of the story just yet, but I love you unconditionally, and because of that, I get to tell you to do something, and you just got to trust it's going to work out for your good. God loves you unconditionally, so God gets to ask you to love him unconditionally as well. That's hope for today. I'll see y'all next time.